Good afternoon, Facebook. Sagar and Jetty here with Julia. Today in media, we're going to bring you the 5 most foolish takes from the last 2 days. We have a real doozy lined up for you. We're going to start off with Chris Cuomo from CNN, who has an interesting reason as to why he thinks the president is reacting so strongly to this terrorist attack. Let's take a look.
Fact also, guys, and I get it. And yes, I'm devil's advocating here, but we need to because it's what's going on all around us in our society. Here's his fact. I've got a brown, because he really isn't, but I've got a brown guy with a beard who's a Muslim who said he wanted to kill us, and he's proud of it, Phil Mudd. That's the only fact I need if I want to advance President Trump's position, to treat this guy like what he is. He's a savage. That's his position. How do you deal with that?
Wow, that you know, you have to take a certain amount of cognitive dissonance and maliciousness to think that President Trump is profiling this guy. In reality, here's what happened. The terrorists let us exactly know why he acted the way he did. And the president is reacting vehemently to the fact that this guy wanted to hang an ISIS flag in his hospital room.
Exactly, and I think it's really funny, too, that he himself, Chris Cuomo, is stereotyping a person on his show when he claims to be this morally righteous media elite person who would never do such a thing. And then when you see the clip, you see Poppy Harlow and her face just go, oh, what did you say, Chris?
I mean, it's one of the most stupidest takes I've ever heard, that the president is reacting vehemently and calling for the death penalty after this guy let us know exactly why. He left a note in his car after he killed 8 people on our streets that said the Islamic State will endure. But yeah, Chris, Trump is profiling the guy because of that.
And I think one of the things too is that he's talking specifically about what he looks like. He's not going into the details of this person committed a crime, and we know that it was him. Trump had very little clue as to it doesn't matter what he looked like. The guy committed a crime. Trump was talking about that specific crime, the act of terror. So for him to even profile on his personal appearance makes no sense.
I don't know how they keep this guy on the air. But all right, we're going to move on to Nicole Wallace, who is a former Bush administration official, and she was acted very rudely towards somebody who is just giving out accurate information. Why don't you take a look and let us know what you think of it?
It started with the Clinton campaign paying hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to Fusion GPS, which went out and hired a foreign operative who, Brian Fallon, Hillary Clinton's former spokesperson, said, I would have gone out and helped him if I could have. They went on and then worked with Kremlin-tied connections to provide misinformation about the then candidate, later president-elect of the United States, and to make matters worse, the Hillary Clinton campaign, through their operatives, peddled this trash.
Mark,
to the American people starting last
Mark, Mark, I will call some friends over at Fox and try to get you a booking, but we're not going to peddle. That's not true. And all we're asking you, listen, we appreciate that you come here and speak on behalf of Donald Trump, but why can't you say that we don't know if, I mean, we know there was attempted collusion. If it's not a crime, why are you so defensive about it?
Well, I'm not.
Yeah, see, that is so incredibly rude. What Nicole Wallace just did there is shut Mark Lauder up for giving accurate information about the Clinton dossier and calling it Fox News propaganda.
Exactly. For someone to be truthful on air, apparently that's not enough for Nicole Wallace. Nicole Wallace has to shut down anything that doesn't stand for her narrative, even when it's been proven that the Clinton campaign and the Trump and the DNC were funders of the Trump dossier. She just doesn't want to deal with that, so she's immediately going to shut down someone who will say that on the air and be truthful about it.
Inconvenient facts don't seem to meet MSNBC's editorial standards, and especially from a former Bush administration official who had to deal with the vile attacks from the media throughout the 2000s. For her to indulge in this type of behavior is utter insanity. I'm not sure what they put in the water up there at MSNBC, but it's clearly infected Nicole. All right, let's go on next. We're going to talk about this, one of my favorite takes from the terrorist attack, and I shouldn't even be laughing because it's insane, which is BuzzFeed is suggesting that we should just ban cars in big cities in order to get rid of terrorist attacks. So let's break this down.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the time that Bernie Sanders said that global warming was the same as terrorism, and obviously the two are not the same. You have a man going out and committing this evil act of terror, and yes, he drove a van, and it's also ironic too that people are talking about gun control at the same time. That's a topic for another issue. But this man is driving a van, and so they're going to use that one van to say, oh, we should now ban all big cars in all big cities. Like, sorry, people need to get around. It has to do with the actual intention of this man being a terrorist, not the car itself that was the problem.
What I actually love the most about this take is that it's really funny because people after the attack will be like, wow, nobody's actually calling for truck control. Or be like, let's have truck. This guy actually called for truck control, which is amazing. That's actually amazing.
She did, because it was a female author.
Oh, sorry,
that was hilarious to me.
I was like, what?
She would do that.
And you know, I'll tell you, whoever, what's this, do we know this author's name?
I can't
remember,
but it's up on the screen.
Whoever you are, you don't want to go down the road of banning something and respond to terrorist attacks, because I think we all know how you guys feel about it.
We have trucks, guns, knives are next, kitchen knives especially. How am I going to cut my chicken? Who knows?
All right. Next is, we have one of my favorite takes towards the death penalty calls that President Trump had. Let's see what this Wall Street Journal reporter had to say, comparing and contrasting versus Las Vegas to this New York City act of terror.
Does the unifying thread, the sort of broader politics of Donald Trump, the ethnocentric nationalism. He did not react this way when a white person shot dozens of people in Las Vegas. He did not come and say, well, we have to do an immediate policy change. We need to give this guy the death penalty.
Yes, Eli, why did Trump not call for the death penalty against Stephen Paddock? Oh, maybe because he put a bullet in his brain.
Yeah, exactly. It's insane. Yeah, the guy's dead. The guy's dead. Stephen Paddock is dead. Last time I checked, there was no need to call for the death penalty because he committed it against himself. So
guess what? If he was alive, we probably would have given him the death penalty. He's a heinous criminal.
Exactly. With the largest mass murder in history. And so the fact that this guy killed himself and then another person on the media, who obviously, I don't know where he's been for the last couple months. Like, you can't just say this on air. Like, the guy died. This
again is a preferred narrative. What Eli was leading in there was he was talking about how Trump had to double down on ethno-nationalist politics and ergo called for the death penalty in one case and not in other. Yeah, an act of terrorism qualifies under federal death penalty statute. That's it, Eli. You know, take your narrative somewhere else and actually get your facts straight before you go on the air, man.
And one of the most annoying things is that everyone's trying to put this as if it were a profile on someone just because of the way they looked or their cultural background. No, we need to isolate these incidents. If someone commits a crime, they should therefore be just or put to justice because of that crime. It has nothing to do with the way that a person looks or however they were living. If they acted on a crime, they will then be put before a jury or the court system in order to have that justice.
And you can't prosecute a dead person. All right, and finally, probably one of the worst things I have ever heard uttered on the air. I cannot believe that this was not only applauded, but was lauded by this panel. Let's take a look at what Keith Olbermann had to say about the president.
Said recently via tweet that and his family have done more damage to America than bin Laden and ISIS combined.
Yes.
Do you believe that?
Yeah, we did really well after 9/11. I don't think the country has given itself enough credit for what we did not do after 9/11. We did not restrict all of the freedoms in this country. We did not single out people.
Us here at the Daily Caller News Foundation pretty much have one thing to say to you, Keith Olbermann. F*** you. That is one of the most repulsive and disgusting statements I have ever heard on air. I remember when you were a washed-up has-been railing against this same crap during the Bush administration. You have to keep railing your rhetoric up in order to be relevant enough to bring on to The View from your crappy show on GQ in order to say, I mean, think about the sheer hatred that has to be in somebody's head and the sheer cognitive dissonance to think that terrorists who literally hate our way of life, who have slaughtered 3,000 citizens on our streets, people who just ran down civilians on the streets of New York are worse than the president?
Mm-hmm. The thousands that died in the Twin Towers that day on 9/11, that act of terrorism Trump is somehow worse than that, worse than bin Laden, worse than, these factions in the Middle East that want to cause terror on the United States. Trump is worse than that? for you to say that is such a low blow that I don't understand how you have any legitimacy. I don't understand why The View apologized for you. That's sick. That's just distorted reality, and you should have never said that on air, and I am so ashamed that you would even think to go to that level.
In a way, I'm almost ashamed that I have to even respond to this guy because it's pretty clear that he's trying to fill his paychecks after he got fired from everywhere else. But honestly, Keith, that is one of the most insulting things I have ever heard to an American citizen uttered on national television. And I only hope that you can somehow go to bed knowing that at least you plugged your pockets with your crappy views over at GQ. So, let's see if GQ disavows this. I doubt it, right?
Well, I doubt it too. Yeah. Hopefully, if there's any hope for the future, then maybe GQ will. But the fact that Keith Olbermann was even able to go onto The View and say this out loud on national television,
he was applauded. They applauded him.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, audience. We know exactly where your loyalties lie.
Yes.
So, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. This is Today in Media from the Daily Caller News Foundation. Sagar and Jetty and Julia Nista.